Okay, hello everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you're joining us from. My name is Taylor Fail. I'm an Associate Director of Admission at St. Andrews, and we are so excited to welcome you to the second installment of our Saturdays at St. Andrews programming. I'm joined today by three brilliant faculty members and two students to discuss teaching and learning at St. Andrews. It's a topic that is top of mind for us today after an all-school lecture last night from Stanford art history professor Alexander Nemerov on the subject, which perhaps you'll hear referenced at some point today. And I'm going to get out of the way and turn things over to our Dean of Teaching and Learning, Elizabeth Roach, to kick us off. So Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for a discussion of our academic program at St. Andrews. As Taylor said, I'm the Dean of Teaching and Learning, and I also teach English. It's really wonderful to have you all here, and we hope to give you a portrait of what it is at St. Andrews that makes our academic program so distinctive. And we really believe that it is distinctive, very different from many other schools and academic programs. And I love to talk about the classroom, and mostly because our classroom experience and culture is completely aligned with our culture of the school as a whole. There's very little difference between what happens in the classroom and what happens outside the classroom. And I'm going to try to explain that a little bit, because we cultivate very carefully classroom cultures that are spaces where everyone has a voice, where we bring many different perspectives together and share those perspectives and share those share thinking in a collaborative and open way. And this is really important. We have to listen carefully to each other, and sometimes listening seems pretty obvious thing to do, but it's actually challenging to really listen and to hear what somebody else is saying and what that perspective is, and to consider it within our own perspectives, and have the ability to rethink and readjust how we may be thinking about a particular problem, a particular text. And so in the classroom, we cultivate this culture of collaboration, of flexible thinking, a nimbleness of mind, and a place where it's teacher and student working together, and it's student and student working together. And that kind of work is something that makes everybody in the room better, sharper thinkers, stronger thinkers. And actually better people. And that's kind of what our ethos is at St. Andrews, is that together we can make each other better versions of who we are. And that takes place in the scholarly realm in the classroom as well. I think what's so distinctive about this is that students are authentically working with other students and with teachers, and not in a competitive way. We eliminate that competition, because that's the only way, and really the true definition of what collaboration is. So whether it's in the classroom or on a team or in a artistic studio, or on the front lawn, we are always striving for that kind of pushing each other to be better. This looks like in the classroom something that is deeply authentic. So we study and we work on different disciplines in the most authentic way. So we become historians, we become scientists and mathematicians and artists and literary scholars. We're not doing the work of rote memorization and mechanical work in our disciplines. We're asking students essential questions and engaging in authentic thinking and work at all times. So this work is actually really hard. It's really challenging, and it's really rigorous and sophisticated. But we introduce it, and I hope our students can talk a little bit about this later. We introduce it and scaffold it in very careful ways because we realize that students are coming from all different kinds of educational backgrounds and all different kinds of classrooms and all different kinds of relationships with teachers and with their peers. So we scaffold that kind of thinking and that kind of learning very carefully in the 9th grade year and build on it each year after that, to the point where students become independent scholars in many different kinds of disciplines. And that's ultimately what we want to achieve, because we want them to go out not only to college, but really into the world with a kind of passion for learning and seeking knowledge and authentic ways to engage with the world. So as I said, it's rigorous and it's challenging, but that's what makes it so fun and rewarding and exciting at the same time. So when you're thinking and doing authentic work and you're working with other people around you, it just allows you to really tap into what makes you excited about the thinking process and actually activates you to want to do more of that kind of work. So I think that our panelists here are all going to flesh this out with some of their own examples and experiences of this kind of teaching and learning. And we, of course, want lots of questions from all of you so that we can give you an even deeper portrait of what we do in the classroom. So we want to also leave plenty of time for all of you to ask us questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley Hyde, who is our science department chair and an incredible scientist herself, a physicist. Ashley.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Hi, everybody. My name is Ashley Hyde. I am Science Department Chair here at St. Andrews, and I also teach physics. I teach astronomy, this is my now my 7th year as a teacher. Before I became a teacher, I was doing research in astrophysics, so I got my PhD, and then I realized that I loved teaching more than anything else. So here I am. So I would love to just give you all an idea of the science department here at St. Andrews and what is it that we do that makes us different and unique and special, and that helps our students to become really promising, young, talented scientific thinkers. So I think the best way to do that is to probably, firstly, make sure you all know where we teach, right? We have this amazing new renovated building, Amos, the new Amos Hall, which I'm in right now. I have unfortunately had to position my camera away from the windows, otherwise I would be in darkness, but I wish you could see what I'm seeing, because I have windows on my left, my right, and in front of me. I'm looking out at our beautiful campus. And all of the rooms in this building are like that. If you ever get a chance to watch our virtual tour, you'll see we have these incredible windows and spaces that are really just designed to let the light in and let us kind of relish the views of our beautiful campus. There is really no better place to study the natural world than such a naturally beautiful place. So we're very fortunate to have this incredible building with all of its fantastic spaces for not only taking in the natural world, but to allow students and teachers excellent facilities and huge spaces for collaboration and thinking. We can write on our windows and most of our walls, whether it's in the classroom or the corridor. So it's really sort of a hive of scientific thinking. You sort of walk in the building and feel like you really just want to start exploring. In terms of the sort of the sciences at St. Andrews, we do have a particular order that we teach in. We actually start with biology for incoming freshmen, incoming third formers. And the reason that we do that is because we, again, have this incredible 2,200 acre campus, right? And it's full of biodiversity. We have fields and forests and trails and ponds and so much to study, so much to explore. And it's just the perfect place to let our third formers go out and explore and see what they can find. Learn to ask questions, learn to be curious. That's really the sort of purpose of biology. Learning to think like scientists. This is really the perfect place to begin training young scientists. So that's why we start with biology first. Next comes physics, and in physics we help to encourage and train students to really begin to combine that curiosity that they developed in biology with the power of mathematical analysis to problems that we encounter in everyday life, in our everyday world, so that when they go off, even if they never take another physics course, they ideally have the foundation in what kind of thinking we need to do to understand the physical world. And chemistry is the third in sequence, last but not least. And that just is where we really finish honing students' problem-solving skills, which are applicable in so many areas well beyond science. And we also use chemistry to sort of extend students' understanding of the world, of the physical world, of the natural world, moving into atoms, thinking about what we're all made of, which completes this sort of really nice, almost philosophical circle back to where they started in biology, thinking about what we're all made of and what makes us tick. So we're sort of completing a journey through these three sciences, and all throughout all of these courses, as Elizabeth said, we're really focusing not on rote learning, not on memorization, but on building skills. And the skills that we try and help our students build and develop and hone are problem-solving skills, taking information, taking data, and figuring out how to put those puzzle pieces together in a way that lets you see that bigger picture. That's a skill. That's really sort of training your brain to do that. So we're focusing on problem solving, and we're also focusing on collaboration. That's such a huge part of science at St. Andrews. We do so much collaborative work, so much group work. It's very unusual for students to be working completely by themselves on something, as I think Mimi is going to talk about science. I'm sure she can tell you that too. But science, of course, is all about collaboration. At the research level, at the professional level, no scientist works alone. Everybody works together. And so collaboration is a hugely important skill. And that's something that we really focus on heavily here at St. Andrews. On top of our sort of three core courses, we offer a number of advanced year-long courses in science. So we offer physics, which includes some coding, some computer programming. We offer advanced studies in chemistry, biology, environmental science, and all of these courses involve offering students the opportunity to really stretch themselves and to pursue challenging undergraduate level work in many cases. So those are really quite high level courses. In addition to that, we have some additional options for students. So some semester courses. We have semester courses in engineering. We have semester courses in bioengineering, in anatomy and physiology, in advanced studies in astronomy. And we also have a new course this year, which is nuclear ethics. That's actually our first cross-curricular course where the science department is actually teaming up with another discipline. One of the ethics teachers are fantastic, Mr. Gil Haney, who is the chair of that department, and we're really excited to offer that for the first time this year. And the idea behind all of these semester courses, these optional courses for students, is they really allow students to tap into really the expertise of some of the faculty here and the passions of some of the faculty who are so excited to be able to offer these semester courses, these elective courses. You know, our faculty in science are incredible. We have 3 teachers with PhDs. We have a teacher who is a medical doctor and former surgeon. We have a teacher who was a nuclear engineer. The sort of the range and diversity of our science faculty in terms of their background that they're bringing into their teaching is quite incredible. And I think it's one of the most exciting things about science at St. Andrews is that we allow faculty to actually bring that background and passion they have into the classroom for our students to enjoy. You know, and I think Elizabeth said this well as well, it's so much more than the classroom, right? We try to make sure that students have the opportunity to pursue and study and be excited about science outside of the classroom too. So we have a number of extracurricular programs. That includes a science lecture competition that we have each year for juniors and seniors. That includes a medical society, a robotics club, a coding club, and more recently we've also started to work on helping students to find and secure summer opportunities in the STEM fields, whether that's a placement in our lab, whether that's taking part in an established program, sort of whatever it might be, some kind of summer school type program, just sort of helping students to find and give them support in applying for those programs as well. So that's something that we've also introduced. I could tell you so much more, but I think I'm going to stop here, and I'm sure I can answer questions that you all have. But I think for now I will pass along to Mimi.
Awesome. So hi everyone, my name's Mimi. I'm a senior at St. Andrews. My family lives in Hong Kong, but I'm originally from Boston. So I guess I'll just start with some background. So I used to go to a big international school where there was definitely a more competitive culture than the one that St. Andrews has, and less collaboration overall. And so when I came to St. Andrews, it was definitely a good, challenging, big shift for me. So I guess I'll talk about freshman year. So freshman year math class was all about problem solving. I remember being really intimidated at first, but it was just everyone felt really comfortable asking questions, and it just, like Dr. Hyde was saying, it wasn't about working on your own. It was about going through problems with your peers. And even if we struggled to find answers and were really annoyed that the math teacher wouldn't give it to us, we still learned a lot and we were pushed a lot. And so, yeah, definitely freshman year, I learned to love problem solving. That was probably the start of my love for math. And like Dr. Hyde was saying, we also start with biology for science. We are really lucky. We have a 2,200 acre campus, tons of space to explore. And so one thing I loved about bio is that it wasn't a group of kids just sitting in a dark classroom looking at the board. It wasn't that at all. It was us going outside, exploring, doing curiosity quests, asking a bunch of questions. And one difference from St. Andrews classes and my old school is that everyone was asking questions and you were not judged at all. And so, yeah, definitely freshman year bio was cool because I just got so much more curious about science, and I don't know, it was just really fun to explore forests outside and to do a bunch of projects and stuff like that. So yeah. And then moving into sophomore year, I really think that was when I started to throw myself into math and science in my classes. I would have to say that the biggest part about me being so into STEM at St. Andrews is because of the teachers. So because my teachers were just so enthusiastic and really pushed me, I definitely felt more encouraged to like ask hard questions and to push myself. My sophomore year math teacher, I remember whenever we would present a solution to a math problem and it would be new or different, he'd have so much excitement in his eyes, you would think we had found a cure to cancer or something. Yeah, all of my teachers have just been really enthusiastic. And again, one thing that really resonated with me and that I really like is the progression of science. So you do bio, physics, and chemistry, like Dr. Hyde was saying. And so after freshman year, after I'd really learned to love problem solving, I got super into physics sophomore year, and Dr. Hyde was actually my physics teacher, because you kind of saw how your math skills were connected in each of your science classes as well. And again, I just started to love collaborating more. I was definitely used to working on my own in middle school and a less collaborative environment, but a lot of group working classes and like working through problem solving and problems definitely made me love collaborative work. Yeah, just overall, I would say STEM at St. Andrews has been an awesome experience for me, but especially I think it's because of the teachers. Like that's just something that I want to highlight, because I have never met so many teachers that are so enthusiastic about teaching, and their love for teaching is super contagious. My sophomore year math teacher, actually, I was a TA for his class last year, and then this year I'm a TA again and a teacher's assistant. And I'm also, I think, in my third year of being a math help tutor, which is really fun. So yeah, I think I could definitely talk a lot more about STEM at St. Andrews, but of course I'm open to a bunch of questions. But yeah, thank you.
You. I come from the Religion Philosophy Department. This is my 4th year teaching here at St. Andrews, and I'm actually doing this meeting here. You can see this is in my room here. This is my home space, and I wanted to do it from here for one of the reasons because learning takes place everywhere at St. Andrews. It's not just in the classroom. It's not just outside. It's also on the dorm hall. It's also in the advisory meetings that you have with your advisor, the faculty member. It's constant. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week. All right? I'm also a dorm parent, which means I have 18 young boys that I'm guiding and doing that pastoral care on a 24/7 basis. So learning is a holistic approach that we take here at St. Andrews. But let me specifically talk about the Religion and Philosophy Department, because one of the questions I get a lot is why do we even have a Religion and Philosophy Department? We're a small school. We're only 300 students. Why not just focus on a more standard curriculum? Well, the truth is that when the school was founded in 1929, it was specifically stated there will be a Religion and Philosophy Department. The ethos of the school, the motto of the school is this idea of faith and learning. And I like to think that the founder understood that before you go out into the world to being an independent adult, before you make that transition from high school to college, you better have a philosophy in life. Because if you don't have a philosophy in life, you're going to be in trouble. You know, life's going to throw you a curveball. And I think that the situation now with COVID is a good example of that. Is, do you have the resilience, right? Do you have the wherewithal to meet what life is going to bring about? And so when we think about philosophy, Elizabeth earlier talked about this idea of developing this passion for learning, this seeking of knowledge. Well, that's the definition of philosophy. If you look at Greek, it's Sophia, meaning knowledge, and then phileo, this idea of love of knowledge. We are trying to develop this intellectual curiosity in students. And the way that looks is it's not just a knowledge for information. It's really a knowledge that empowers life. That's wisdom. So when you look at our course curriculum as it looks for a junior and senior, some of the classes that we offer is one of the very popular classes is a global wisdom class. And in there, the students will learn about the different intellectual thinkers, the famous different worldviews that are out there that help to shape society as we know it. Another class that we have is ethics. And in the ethics class, you know, students are going to learn to how to distinguish between right and wrong. You know, what are some of the normative ethical theories out there, whether it's an Aristotle approach, virtue ethics, whether it's a more of a Immanuel Kant approach, or if it's a utilitarian approach. They learn this ability to distinguish between right and wrong and making decisions to these ethical dilemmas that they will invariably face later in life. Then another classes that we have is a world mythology class, and so that's what I teach. And when you think about world mythology classes, in there we will read these stories that are still significant and have lasting appeal, even though we know that the science doesn't equate to modern science today, or that people are no longer practicing as a religion, but it's still resonating with individuals. And so we try to examine, why is that the case? What is it about these stories that still, there's a functional level that they still work for us today? And then Reverend Hutch teaches a wonderful class on call to serve. And, you know, in talking with him, you know, his approach to that is before they leave here, is to break them out of this mentality that life is just about you, right? Because if they go out there with that attitude, you know, good luck with that. Let me know how that goes. Because eventually you're going to get married, you're going to have kids. And if you still have that self-absorbed mentality, you know, those are going to be tragic consequences, not just for you, but for others as well. The other aspect of this idea of faith, so we have faith and learning, faith and how it equates to religion. I think there's no worse thing that a boarding school could do, that after 4 years that a student has been here, that they feel like they've lost a connection to their faith. Faith is many times it's who you are. It's part of your core identity. You have to create a space for these students that are leaving their homes and they're coming here and they're entrusting you with their care. And in regards to that, there's many things that we just do, not just curriculum-based, but also in extracurricular activities. There's many different clubs. There's the Jewish Affinity Club. There's the Interfaith Dialogue Club. There's the Ethics Club. And all those different things are just opportunities for students to interact with others and learn from each other about the different diverse beliefs, religious beliefs. There's also an atheist club as well. All right. And during their sophomore year, all the students here are required to take a world religion course. And in that course, they'll learn about the 5 major religions: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism as well. And when the school first started, that course was just a course that was a Christian course where we just basically taught what the Episcopal Church believed. But if you look over the history of the school, the school has changed. The student body has changed. We're a much more diverse community. Before it was just all boys. Now we have boys and girls. We have people from across the globe. We have Hindus. We have Muslims. We have Christians. We have atheists. And so in that course, we're going to learn about the different world beliefs that have shaped the world as we know it today. And the goal is to have students have this cultural sensitivity, whether you call it an empathy or just an understanding of how these different beliefs motivate individuals and affect human behavior. And the last thing I will say is how does this connect with this idea of humanities? How does it connect with our focus on humanities? You know, for me, humanities is about understanding the human experience. What does it mean to be a human? And understanding that humans are also emotional creatures. We're not just rational, logical creatures. We're also emotional as well. And it's very important that students have this balanced approach where they're getting the science and STEM aspect of it. They're getting the logical understanding, but they also understanding how emotions also affect the behavior. And they also understand how those emotions affecting their behavior as well. And so that when they go out into the world, they're a much more psychologically and physically healthy individual because they have a well-rounded background that we've provided at this school. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who's really going to talk about how the Humanities Department looks from the student's perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Mafuka. Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm a senior here at St. Andrews. And I guess the first thing that I noticed coming into senior year was, first of all, time goes by so quickly. I can't believe I'm already a senior here. And second, just realizing that I'm already a senior and that I'm graduating after this year made me also realize how far I've come in my academic process in a short 4 years. And I think I just have like a quick story, I guess, to kind of talk about this. And so freshman year, I came into English class and we were doing a unit on short stories and poems. And our English teacher, Mr. Porter, asked the class on the first day what we thought about the poetry that we read. And everyone started to raise their hands to speak. And Mr. Porter just stopped the class and said, "That's not what we do here. We're at a round table in English class. It's this collaborative nature. And we really emphasize here, what we emphasize here is like thinking and collaborating with peers rather than this conversation that you have with teachers. that you find at a lot of other schools. We really focus on having a conversation with your peers about the material. And I think that experience from my first day of class freshman year kind of is the epitome of the humanities department here at St. Andrews and academics overall. And this year I'm taking humanities, which is an interdisciplinary course between English and history. So it's taking English literature in conversation with history. And I think that collaborative nature is something that's not only unique to the English and humanities departments, but also, as Dr. Hyde and Mimi have been saying, it's something that is a part of STEM, English, and just our entire school's culture. And a really unique aspect of the humanities department is the exhibition process, which is where students write an English paper, and then you and a few other peers and your English teacher will have an exhibition where you talk about your paper, what you tried to argue, and you read each other's papers and you have a conversation, basically. And at first, it's really intimidating because it seems like you're being questioned on what you wrote about, or you're being challenged. But I think now as a senior, what I've come to realize is that it is that challenging nature and that kind of ability to have civil discourse on what we've been reading that makes you such a strong thinker over the 4 years at St. Andrews. And it's not something that people come in and are just able to do, right? All of the kids in my English class started to raise their hands on the first day of class. But now and I think Mimi would agree, I can't imagine anyone raising their hands ever in any class, because it's just so collaborative. And we've just learned I've learned a lot in all areas of academics, but I think the most important skill I've picked up here at St. Andrews is just learning how to think and how to further my thinking, and how to have discussions with peers and with teachers and kind of push each other to grow as thinkers. So we do write English papers, but unlike my past experiences, it doesn't just end there, right? We write a paper on Macbeth or on whatever, and at other schools that it would just end there. You write the paper and that's it, you get a grade. But the exhibition process kind of takes it one step further and talks about how what you said, it puts your ideas in context with the ideas of your peers, to further your thinking and to kind of strengthen your perspective as a student. And I think that's been my favorite part of the humanities department here at St. Andrews. Yeah.
Thank you to all 5 of you for sharing that perspective. I want to be mindful of everyone's time this morning, but we certainly have some time for questions. If there's anything that is on the minds of our attendees that hasn't been talked about yet, feel free to fire some questions into the Q&A box there. So a great question here. I think everybody mentioned the collaborative nature and the non-competitive environment. What do grades look like at the school? Because we are getting grades, or we are giving grades. So I wonder if Elizabeth, you might talk about how St. Andrews thinks about sort of evaluating students.
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, and as Mimi and Andrew talked about in terms of the 9th grade experiences, we realize that students are arriving at St. Andrews with very, very different educational backgrounds and experiences. and that we're introducing everyone to a new way of thinking and working with others in the classroom and with your teachers. And I mentioned sort of the scaffolding of those skills in the 9th grade. And part of what we want to do is with our new students is to make sure that they are open to this learning process and this approach to teaching and learning, and that they're able to ask those questions, take some intellectual risks. As Mimi described, all those questions that students have early on, you don't want to, we as teachers want to make sure that the students feel completely open and able to ask any question that they have, and that they are taking risks every time that they speak in class, but we want them to get comfortable with that taking of intellectual risks. And we want to teach them the skills that they need to really thrive in this kind of academic culture. So for the first quarter of the 9th grade experience, there are no grades. We give narrative feedback. We're teaching skills. We're teaching approaches to teaching and learning. And we are opening up the curiosity in the minds of our young students. So teachers are working very carefully with our 9th graders and giving a lot of feedback, but no grades. As we move through that first semester, the 9th graders will get some shadow grades or grade ranges, so they know what kind of work they're doing and where they need to push a little harder, or where they need to focus a little bit more, or so there's a sense of, again, through narrative comments and through shadow grades, what kind of experience the student is having in the classroom. At the end of the first semester, it's pass-fail for 9th graders, again, with comments from teachers. The second semester, there are grades for the 9th graders. At the end of the year, there is a grade for every class, and we do our grades, number grades, for all our students. So, and there's so much, I mean, as you can maybe tell, we're really looking at not just what students are, how they're performing on assessments or their papers or their tests, because we, as Andrew was describing, we really believe that thinking is ongoing all the time. So as a paper is written, but there's discussion and an exhibition after that, so that there's always more thinking to do. It never ends. So we want to also assess our students on that kind of openness, on their ability to collaborate, on their ability to continue to engage in the ongoing process of learning, and on their deep curiosity and passions that they develop over the time that they're here. So grades are, they're based on many aspects of the teaching and learning experience in the classroom and beyond, sort of in these small groups. So students are assessed in those ways. But I do want to emphasize how carefully we introduce the academic culture to the 9th grade. And it's something that we spend a lot of time talking about and working on, because we believe so deeply in our academic mission, and we want to inculcate those approaches to learning in all of our students from the very beginning.
Can I jump in real quick with just an additional thought on that? So I think that obviously I agree with Elizabeth's perspective on this, and just to give an example of how this looks, I think in science and also math, I think one thing that we try and encourage students to see is that a grade is not a reflection of their ability. So it's not a reflection of their potential. It's not a marker of did you do well or poorly. We try and make sure that students understand that a grade is reflecting what skills and understanding they were able to demonstrate on a particular assessment. And in certain classes in science, we actually use standards-based grading, which means that we're grading directly on skills. And so by helping students to see that what we're looking for is not knowledge, it's not memorization, it's actually understanding and being able to perform or sort of demonstrate rather certain skills, that we help them see a grade as more of a marker of where they currently are, but also where they can go, and with the kind of feedback that we give. And as Elizabeth described, we give a lot of narrative feedback, a lot of constructive feedback. It tends to be more of a guide rather than just sort of something that can sort of hang over students' heads, is what we hope. And for that reason, in the science and maths departments, we offer in various ways reassessments. So if a student isn't happy with their grade on a particular assessment or a quiz or a test, whatever it might be, in some way, shape or form, we'll allow students the chance to come back and show us, actually, I have now picked up this skill. Actually, I do know now how to do this, in order to sort of improve their grade. So we really try and encourage that kind of a healthy perspective of what is a grade. A grade isn't a marker of you as a person. It is just a snapshot in time as to where you are now, but we make it very clear what is that road to improvement, and we will help you get there.
Awesome. So the good news is that we have a group here that is already adept at asking questions and is very engaged. So good St. Andrews values there. I think we can tie a couple of themes on questions that we're getting to Mimi and Andrew. If you could talk a little bit about sort of your standard workload and how that affects the stress level of students. And then in dealing with that, when you need extra help of some kind, what resources you have available, and sort of what your typical outside of classroom studying looks like. Talk about study hall a little bit, or free periods, or going to the library, or what have you. Do you want to start, Mimi?
Yeah. So I would say in terms of workload, definitely every year, your workload increases at a totally manageable level. Every year I felt like it's a natural step up to the previous year. We do have study hall at St. Andrews Monday through Friday, and then also on Sunday from 8 to 10. And I've really felt that study hall, for the most part, is honestly pretty much all I need. And then also, so I study mainly in study hall. My workload probably mainly lies in, probably takes me enough time just to complete during study hall. And then also outside of that, we have free periods during the day, obviously, and that's when I get a little bit of extra work in. But of course, if you are having a busier week or you're struggling, teachers are really responsive to feedback and really responsive to how you're feeling. They're really generous with extensions. Teachers, it's kind of like Mrs. Roach was saying, it's really an experience of you're working with your teachers a lot, and they want you to succeed and they want you to be passionate. And so it's not like you're getting an assignment and it's all up to you to cram that assignment for the next couple days and get it perfect. You have a bunch of time to do your work, and also you have a learning specialist that you can go to help organize your time. I think I'm rambling a little, but my point is that there are tons of opportunities to get your work done, and we also have like math help and science help, and teachers are always open to meeting. And so, yeah, Andrew, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I think the question with workload is always a little bit subjective, because it depends on where you come from and what you're used to in your studying. But I think, like you were saying, it's definitely manageable, that's for sure. But I also think that, and I kind of take pride in the fact that because of how rigorous we are here, there is a good amount of work to be doing, but it's never busy work is the one thing that was different for me from middle school, is that middle school is just like solve 100 problems and come back to class or something. But it's always emphasizing kind of what we've been talking about, like different skill sets rather than busy work problems. And I think regardless of how much work you feel like you have, there is an incredible support system here at St. Andrews, and you can always reach out to teachers for whatever reason. For extra help, you can reach out to peers, like you've been saying, Mimi, and we have a lot of time built into our day to catch up on work if you're ever behind. And I also think the teachers here, they're not out to get you or anything. They're always here for you. And I know that if for any kind of reason I feel like I'm falling behind, or I feel like I haven't been able to do my work as much, then the teachers, I can always reach out to a teacher and feel a lot better in that.
Great. Another thing that a lot of people are wondering about is what the academic day actually looks like. How many classes do we have? How long are the classes? It's been a little bit of a sliding scale as St. Andrews has adapted to our COVID world. But Elizabeth, I wonder if you can reflect a little bit on the recent schedule change that we underwent about 2 years ago, and sort of where we are now.
Sure. We had moved to a schedule over, I've been here a long time, so I've watched the length of classes change as we have also offered more opportunities, more classes, more courses. And at some point we hit that critical moment where classes were 45 minutes long and students were taking 7 or 8 classes. And the day we didn't have enough time in our classes to do what we wanted to be doing, and students were making so many transitions during the day from one discipline to another to another to another, and it was hard to catch our breath. And so 3 years ago, we actually started the schedule study probably 4 or 5 years ago to see what we wanted to prioritize during each academic day. And so we wanted to lengthen our classes so that we could do deep learning. We would have time to really move into a class discussion that could evolve and build over several minutes, over an extended length of time, because that's where the rigor of the thinking that Mimi and Andrew are talking about really comes to life, where you're engaging in a problem, a lab in science, looking at a primary source in history and trying to understand that material in a deep and authentic way. And that can only happen over a long period of time, where you're testing ideas, you're refining ideas, you're complicating ideas, and then you're arriving at something that really moves to what the project is all about. So we wanted to lengthen classes. We also wanted to give time in those classrooms for the thinking, the writing, and the skill building that we're doing every day. We wanted to give longer breaks between the classes so that students had time to reset. Many of us teachers, while we were doing the study, actually engaged in what it was like to be a student at St. Andrews, and how you had to move from physics to English to French, all in the matter of minutes. And that isn't good for the brain. So we wanted to build in longer transition times. So we moved to a schedule where classes were 75 minutes long, with longer breaks in between, like 30 minutes between, so students could get something to eat, they could reset, they could stay after class and talk a little bit with their teacher if there was a particularly interesting idea. They could arrive early at a class and also engage in conversation with their peers and their students and their teachers before class. This really slowed down the pace of the day and was kind of magical what happened. I didn't realize what a schedule change could do to the pace of the day, to a sense of just how we're moving through through our schedule, and thinking, it just improved thinking in really profound ways. So that's a schedule that we are committed to. With the pandemic, we've had to adjust a little bit. At the moment, we are in 60-minute classes because we just have to yield more time for cleaning classrooms, for staggering lunch. But as soon as we can move back to our original schedule of 75-minute classes, 4 classes a day, we will do that because it really has enhanced and deepened the learning experience.
Great. We've spent a lot of time talking about the sort of scaffolding process and the importance of 9th grade at St. Andrews, and we have a number of students in the audience who are new 10th graders and are wondering about what that looks like. So Stephen, I know that you work both on dorm with plenty of new 10th graders every year and also teach them in the 10th grade religious studies class. Do you have thoughts on sort of how you welcome new 10th graders into your classroom? Take yourself off mute first for us. Thanks.
In the 10th grade, specifically as it relates to the religious studies program, one of the things we do right off the bat is just a biography, where we get to know who the student is and what their needs are. And I think just based off the collaborative approach that we do is right off the bat that we encourage them to participate. We check in with them. There's a whole advisory program as well, where the teachers are communicating with the advisors are communicating with the form advisors for the whole class. And it's just having that constant collaboration between the students and the faculty to know what the students' needs are. What I would say is just the traditions that we have in place right off the bat, like the different capacities with the school, kind of like rodeo the first day, is encouraging students to make those connections. And then just continuing those connections by not having an approach to learning where it's just a teacher that's standing up there talking the whole time, but it's rather the students that are driving the learning by having that conversation between each other. And so shifting the learning down to the students. And then also it's just the whole curriculum itself, not just the academic curriculum, but the sports as well. Like all students are going to be involved in 3 different activities in the spring, the fall, and the winter time. And they're interacting with other individuals as well. So students will have plenty of time to connect. And I really think that's a strength of our program here, is just how easy it is for students to integrate, because although, again, we're a small school, there's so many different clubs, different programs that we allow for students to take part in. And we set the time aside for them to do that as well.
Can I just add that we love new 10th grade students. We love new 10th grade students, and we take care of you. We know you haven't had the same scaffolding that happens in 9th grade. As Stephen is referring to, we develop really close relationships with our students. We are very much aware of our new sophomores, what kind of attention they need, what kind of skill building they need. And we make sure that you experience the same kind of scaffolding that our 9th graders experience, except for the pass-fail your first semester. That's the one thing that sophomores don't get, but you get a lot of attention. You bring so much great energy and new life to your classes and to your grade. So our new 10th graders do beautifully.
Great. How about just quickly before we end, one of the most exciting parts of and sort of growing parts of our academic program are the semester-long electives that have been mentioned, and people are wondering if we can sort of highlight some of those. So maybe Ashley and Stephen, if you can talk about some briefly some different electives in your departments. And then Andrew and Mimi, I don't know exactly what your course schedules look like, but if you've had the chance to take any exciting semester-long electives, you can mention those.
So in science, we have, I think we're now up to 5 semester electives. One is engineering, which is taught by our former nuclear engineer. That's a very hands-on class where students are tasked with all sorts of creative, hands-on activities. They're trying to construct and build and design, various things. Whether it's a simple everyday item or something like a bridge, for example. Bioengineering is another course. Elizabeth, I believe that's an AS course. I should know that, but I believe that is an AS course. So that is taught by Dr. Johnson, who he focuses in that class on taking some of the most incredible features of the natural world and thinking about how we can use them in the human world. So whether it's the structure of some sort of type of leaf and thinking about how that can provide strength in the building of an arch, something like this, so sort of really combining, again, the natural world with applications in engineering. It's a fascinating course. Advanced Studies in Astronomy is my own course, and it's one that I introduced because my background is in astrophysics, and I just love to teach it, and I think it's so exciting and so much fun. And the idea behind that course is very different to your typical sort of high school astronomy, or even your sort of typical undergraduate, like first year undergraduate astronomy courses, where those courses typically focus on learning the constellations and learning the names of the planets and learning, sort of, it ends up being a lot of memorization, which is unfortunate because astronomy is such an exciting field. So we instead focus on looking at a lot of very recent research, real data that is taken from telescopes, and essentially asking ourselves the question of how do we know what we know about the universe? And it all comes back to the idea of just measuring light and the amazing amount of things that we can figure out with light. So it's a challenging course, but it's a fascinating course. We also have Anatomy and Physiology, which is taught by our Dr. Sarah O'Connor, who is a surgeon, and so she's able to bring her actual medical expertise in to help students examine case studies of patients and to try and seek accurate diagnoses based on symptoms and background and things like this. So it's actually an incredible opportunity for our students to learn from a real medical doctor. I think that makes it an incredibly special course. It's probably one of our best courses actually here. Really fantastic course. And new this year, starting next semester, so we haven't taught this yet, Nuclear Ethics is a course that I'll be co-teaching with, again, Mr. Gohaney over in ethics. And it's really a really interesting course that I'm so excited for, and it combines nuclear physics, so whether that's how nuclear power works, how nuclear weapons work, how nuclear medicine works, other applications of nuclear physics in industry, looking at how those things work, but also how they were developed, which had, in many cases, a large human impact in both their development and their usage in many cases, in all cases actually. And looking then, after students have learned about the science behind those things, to begin to then ask the ethical questions that arise from the usage of nuclear weapons. Even the usage of nuclear power has sort of perhaps ethical questions for people who might live nearby, for example, nuclear medicine, uses in industry. There's all sorts of fascinating history and stories around that. So it's very exciting. First time that the science department has had a cross-curricular course with another department. So those are all fantastic semester courses that we have. They're relatively recent. I mean, we only started introducing semester courses, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago now. So relatively recent, but really exciting opportunities that frankly, I wish I had had when I was in school.
And I'll jump in for the religion department. I think the way we kind of choose which electives we're going to teach is, one, those that just naturally arise out of either philosophy or religion. So for example, we have a class on Asian religion. Due to the fact that in the world of religion, we don't have really enough time to go in depth and specifically in many of the Asian religions. So we have a separate elective for the students who can learn in depth about Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. The second category, what I would call, is kind of like the students-driven courses. Those are courses that students come up to us and they're like, you know, I really enjoyed this part of your course. Can you offer something more detailed? So for example, my course is Mythology course. Students really liked learning about the psychological approach to mythology. So one of the things that me and another teacher, Mr. Coonan, are thinking about is offering a psychology course, an introduction to psychology course for students. So those are ones that are driven really by students' desires. And then the third are those cross-discipline courses. So already Ashley talked about this idea of nuclear ethics and ethics coming from philosophy. I just kind of am amused by that because science used to be part of philosophy before, and it used to be called natural philosophy. So you guys are coming back into the fold, which is a good thing. But then there's other like cross-discipline classes like Arab-Israeli conflict, you know, where there's a historical aspect. Is that in the history department? But there's also a lot of religious implications as well. And again, that's a very popular class as well. So those are the three ways that we determine our electives for the students, specifically in the religion department.
I think we haven't touched on, just want to make sure people know that we have a really amazing and robust arts program with many electives. And I don't know if Mimi or Andrew, I actually don't know if you're taking any arts classes and what areas you might be in, but that might be an area we haven't touched on for, if possible.
Yeah, I play the double bass and I'm in the orchestra. I'm the co-president of the orchestra, and I'm currently taking chamber music, and this is my third year taking chamber music as a course. And there are a lot of art programs, but I'm, like I said, a bassist, so I enjoy the chamber music. And chamber is just a small group that our orchestra director, Mr. Geiersbach, kind of puts together depending on what students are interested that year. And chamber is about learning to play with other people without a conductor, and learning to listen to each other and learning to decide on how as a group you want to play the music. Because the one thing that I found so much fun in my 3 years taking chamber is that you can play the same piece in 100 different ways, and that is really just up to your group and how you want to play it. So you get to decide if you want to make that piece more legato, more slow, and make it feel a little bit more sad, or if you want to play it staccato and make it a little bit more bright and interesting. And so Mr. Geiersbach, our teacher, really puts emphasis on that kind of idea of thinking together through the music rather than just playing the notes that are on the page. So I've had a lot of fun with chamber.
Yeah, so I took drawing 1 as a sophomore, and I've actually been really sad because there's so many cool electives for me to take, and I just can't take them all. And like whenever I see the art teacher here, I feel really sad that I didn't keep on going with art because I love it. But yeah, we do each have an art requirement. And when I started drawing, I realized how much I love art and how much I miss it. Like I definitely did more in middle school. But yeah, Andrew described a lot of the arts well. There's so much to do. There's so many different classes, and the teachers are so excited to teach you and just really excited to see you grow as an artist in so many of these different sectors. So yeah, I guess that's all I can say about art.
I think the only other department maybe, sorry, I know, Taylor, you may be trying to wrap it up, but I just want to make sure to talk a little bit about the language department, because it's a phenomenal department as well. We don't have any language teachers here, but we offer French and Spanish, Chinese, and Latin and Greek. So I don't know. I know, Mimi, do you want to talk a little bit about your language experience?
Yeah, so I came from a background of learning Chinese. I'd been learning it before I came to St. Andrews at my old school. And when I came to St. Andrews, it was a really smooth transition. There are 2 Chinese teachers, a bunch of Spanish teachers. Obviously I know the most about Chinese classes, but overall what I've learned about the language department is that teachers really want to see you learn and grow. And with my experience in Chinese, I've had both teachers that I've had have been awesome with me, and I don't know, it's just been a really interesting class, and I've taken it all 4 years. I've gone past my requirement. You only have to meet, I think, the 3rd level of a language, and then you've met your requirement. But I'm an ATT, and I think I'm going to continue into college, just because my teachers have been really exciting and really show me how much fun it is to get good at a language and be proficient. So yeah.
If I may, I also want to talk about Latin a little bit because classics are a little bit different, I think, from the other languages. But I was new to Latin coming to St. Andrews, so I took Latin 1 my freshman year, and Latin I've found is very difficult, but also so much fun, and I've learned a lot from Latin that is actually applied into my other disciplines in humanities. And the Latin department really focuses on, we've been talking about this entire time, but just like that collaboration and just really learning together, learning in small groups, and working on translations together. And Latin 1 and 2 focuses a little bit more on, introduction to Latin and grammar-based learning, which unfortunately has to be a little bit of memorization because Latin has so many different parts that you have to know. But then once you get to Latin 3 and AS Virgil, which is what I'm taking now, or Latin 4, it's Latin 3 and 4 are about reading Ovid and about reading Virgil. And so you read that Latin poetry, you translate it, and you come to class, and it's almost like an English class. You discuss the meter of the poem, you discuss the imagery, the symbolism, and kind of also sometimes go into the history of Virgil or of Ovid and how that was significant at the time, and how the myths from these epics are kind of tied into and rooted in the history of these authors. So Latin is a lot of fun, and I know Greek is a semester-long course. I don't take Greek, but a lot of the kids who take Latin take Greek, and they've also been having a blast with it. So
awesome. Well, thank you to you 5 for taking the time out of your Saturday morning to be with us. Thank you to our attendees for taking the time out of your Saturday to learn more about St. Andrews. One of the great features of Zoom is that the question and answers and the chat box will be saved, and which gives us the opportunity to follow up with many of you whose questions didn't get answered, at least on the button. So look out for some personal communication for us coming up. Next week, we'll have another Saturdays with St. Andrews focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice at St. Andrews, featuring our head of school, Tad Roach, and our Dean of Diversity Education, Devin Dupre, along with some other senior leaders. So we hope you'll make the time to be back with us. And I hope everyone has an awesome weekend. We're looking at a nice sunny day in Middletown. So I hope everyone can get outside here, and you all have a great weekend. So yeah.